I'm Susan Frew, and welcome to the Raincatcher podcast.
Hi, and I'm Marla DiCarlo.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. And we are so excited to have Aaron Linnebach here, who's our managing director at Raincatcher. Yes, he is part of the A team. A for Aaron and A for awesome. So, but he is a seasoned investment banker and corporate finance leader who nearly $1 billion in transactions closed and a passion for entrepreneurs. He views it as a privilege to work with lower middle market and middle market privately held businesses across multiple industries to execute what will often be the largest and most transformative transaction in their history. Prior to joining Raincatcher, he co-founded the investment banking affiliate of the largest CPA firm in Colorado, serving in that capacity through its sale to a national firm. Before that, he was vice president for a regional investment bank in Colorado, and earlier on worked with global financial institutions as a consultant with Deloitte & Touche LLP and as director of finance for a large mental health provider in Arizona. He maintains an active Colorado CPA license and an FINRA Series 79, 63, and 24 licenses. Welcome to our podcast.
Welcome, Aaron. We're so glad you're here today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. And gosh, that was quite the introduction. I feel like I've got big shoes to fill there.
Well, we had another 2 pages, but Susan decided not to read it.
Yeah, I pared it down. Sorry.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Now I'm blushing.
A few words.
That's right.
So, being I did pare it down, maybe you can share a little bit more on your background and how it led you to help small businesses with Raincatcher.
Sure. Actually, starts at really kind of my first real job in finance, which was as the head of finance for what was at the time the family business. We owned and operated group homes and day treatment facilities for people with developmental disabilities down in the state of Arizona. We were one of the largest providers of those services to the state. And it was a small business. It was a family-run business. And in my role of both being the head of finance and sharing the last name with the owners of the company, I recognized the struggle that every small business owner goes through when they're trying to build something that's ultimately going to be sellable in the future. And being able to go through that process with my own family, with my own parents in the family business, and this was some time ago, gave me a lot of insight into the thoughts and the feelings, the emotions that go into that. And I'll tell you, I came out of there with a renewed passion for helping small business owners through that process. There's not only a gap in the marketplace of good, capable service providers for small business owners, but there's also a gap in the knowledge base among small business owners. Frankly, you just don't know what you don't know. And following that through the rest of my career at Deloitte and into investment banking, I kind of call it about 10 or 12 years in the desert with big businesses. And I've always felt really that tug back towards the entrepreneur, the founder, the family. I know it's a cliche, but those people that put really the blood, sweat, and the tears and the sleepless nights and the worrying about making payroll and the, robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes. Those are real world struggles. And being able to come in and help those folks, the risk takers in our economy, it's just an extraordinary privilege. And nothing could do it justice. So.
Well, so that's a great segue to a question I had for you, because, with all of the experience you have, Aaron, working with small business owners, and then also in your family's own business, I'm thinking of those new startups, those business owners that are just starting their business. They're excited about what they're going to do. They have big plans, big vision, and they've hit their first hurdle or their first plateau. And maybe they're even thinking, I don't know that I want to do this. Have you ever had that experience before? And what advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marla. And I'll tell you, every business and every business owner is going to hit those plateaus throughout their evolution. And as an owner, as a leader, what you've got to do when you hit that inflection point is really step back, step up to that 30,000 foot view so that you can see the whole picture. I think one of the challenges and one of the reasons why business owners often hit a plateau is because the business owner is so good at working on whatever it is that business does, whether they're writing code, fixing air conditioners, whatever it might be. They're really good at that. But it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. It's almost as if a business tends to grow up around the owner. And if the owner's not staying ahead of that and keeping that elevation, they'll not be able to recognize what things you need to change. So number one, I'd say, is get some perspective. Get out of the business a little bit. Number two is, and this is kind of a leadership lesson. I pulled it from a leadership book I read way back in high school. And I'm missing the paraphrase a little bit, but the fundamental principle was that the leader should only focus his time on the things that only the leader can do. So for almost every business, right, it reaches a point where you just need to let some stuff go in order to grow. You've got to bring in experts to take stuff off of your plate. I'll tell you what. There's probably a better accountant out there than you are as a business owner, right? There's probably a better salesperson than you are as a business owner. There's probably a better operations professional or people manager, whatever it might be. And you can't be all things to all people, but what there's only one of is you as the business owner, right? The person where the buck stops, so to speak. And you've got to stay only in that job. So there's a couple of things. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's helpful advice, because I know I've made that mistake.
Yeah.
Susan, I don't know if you've done the same in
Absolutely.
your career. I mean, I remember going my first business and thinking, well, who else is going to do this? Instead of, putting myself in the best position where I was serving my strengths. I was trying to do stuff that I'm not good at.
Yeah.
So
I know what I'm not good at.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. Embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you give us an example of one of the biggest challenges you've ever worked through?
That's a really great question too, Susan. Thank you. Biggest challenge the biggest challenge for me has been, as a guy who has historically been a service provider, right? A servant to business owners rather than a business owner myself, even though I shared a last name with the owners in one of my prior careers. The biggest challenge for me has been able to really step into the mindset of the business owner, right? It's one thing to be the guy that has to deliver the bad news. Hey, our line of credit's going to be a little bit short to cover the next payroll, so we need to find an extra 10 grand or whatever the number is. It's one thing to be the person to identify and deliver that bad news. But as that business owner, again, you're in that role of it all ends with you. If you're the last guy to leave or the last gal to leave and shut the lights off. And so you've got to make those hard decisions. That really is a challenge. And I can do my absolute best to deliver the best advice and the best service and to drive, our team and our people to do the same for our business owners. But what I can't do is put myself into your chair. And so again, that's probably the biggest one. I'd say the overcoming that is getting to know a ton of business owners, getting the opportunity to talk to a lot of people and really dig in deep, to what keeps you up at night.
So would you say that in the beginning of your career, you found yourself making those mistakes?
Making the mistakes of explain that to me again.
Of just trying to do too much, not passing off enough, yeah.
Are you kidding me? I mean, it's a constant battle, and I'm glad you asked that question. I'll put it back to you too. Do you find yourself doing that as well? And Susan, I'll ask you the same question as a business. Do you find yourself doing that?
All the time.
Very rarely for me. I've read all those 4-hour work week books and embraced them.
Yeah.
I have too, and I know what you're supposed to do. But if I'm being real, if I'm being authentic, I try to do, what we're talking about here, but it's difficult because I think, Aaron, you said something that resonates with me. The buck stops here. Everything comes back to you as the business owner. And so sometimes it's very difficult to, release to your team for them to do what they need to do, but then, not be the Monday morning quarterback. That's what I'll say. And that was always so irritating to me, So I'm curious. I mean, we've talked about, advice and how they can try to overcome those mistakes. If someone's going into business for the first time, and I'm kind of staying there because sometimes it's hard to change bad habits, but if somebody's going into business for the first time, what's the number one area you think they should focus on in their business? What should they hire new people? Should they get office space? Is budgeting important? Like, in your opinion, what do you think they should focus on?
Gosh, that's a really good question. And there's a lot that a business owner can focus on. I'd say I'm going to boil it down to two things primarily. Number one, have a plan, right? You've got to be thinking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. Don't start the business thinking about the next dollar tomorrow. If you're building a business rather than a job, you've got to be thinking about how does that expand and multiply. And you have to, I'm going to steal a phrase, you have to begin with the end in mind. Draw a path between point A, where we're at today, and point B, where we want to be 5 years. As a business owner, you may not be qualified to go through that calculus on your own, right? How do you know, as a business owner or someone starting a business, what that point B should be or how I should get there? So I'd say if I'm in those shoes, I'm gonna draw that map out, and then I'm gonna find some friends that can help give strategic guidance and input. I'm gonna hire friends, frankly, right? I'm going to hire somebody like Susan or somebody like you, Marla, if your time was still available in that capacity, to help me draw that map. So that's number one. Number two is know thyself, right? One of the first philosophical statements any of us have met, or any of us have heard rather. Know thyself. As a business owner and as a leader, you've got to understand where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. And again, I'll boil it down to the leader should only do the things that only the leader can do. And so you've got to focus your time and energy on those strengths and those required activities. And the other stuff, I'll tell you, you got to think about ways to hire that out creatively, or get favors from a friend. And again, you're building an organization. You're not building a job. So you don't have to do everything. Try not to do everything even. Make it a effort to do less. And I said two, but I'm going to add a third. When you're just starting, and this is just a freebie. This is something I got from a business owner. And I'm rephrasing a little bit here, but basically, if you're going to start a company, why not start it in an industry that's got some tailwinds? Don't go start a typewriter repair shop. Think about what's going to happen in the future, right? And let the natural course of things help to push you along a little bit. Marla, we talk about this in our business, right? We exist to serve small business owners in large part because we see that it's an underserved market, and there are millions of business owners in that ocean not being served. And so we're going to use those tailwinds of growth and private company M&A to help drive our business. And gosh, we're going to show up every day and do our best to execute, but we're also fishing in rich waters. As a business owner, fish in rich waters.
I love that. We're talking a lot about us doing and not delegating and having our team do and finding the right people on the bus.
Yeah.
But what I've learned from working at Raincatcher is when you are too much in control, it's harder to sell your company. So if that's your plan at the end of the life cycle of your business, and talking about Stephen Covey, keeping the end result in mind right from the beginning, when you are it's all about you and you're the only one who knows all the information, and you say, it's up here in my head, that's really a disadvantage to your company. You are hurting your own pocketbook and your own retirement plans.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how often do we see that, Erin? I mean, I think, often, wouldn't you say?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I'd say more often than not, really, among smaller businesses, right? A company gets to a certain size where it really can't depend on any one person. There's always key people throughout the organization. But you bet we run into that all the time among smaller businesses. And you know, look, you asked me the question and I unfairly turned it back to you. Have you ever made that mistake in your life of not delegating effectively or not doing the right things? And I can say, absolutely, I'm guilty of it. It's a human problem. It's not just a business owner problem, right? It's a human problem. We all do it every day in our daily lives. But yeah, that owner dependency, it really can be a deal killer. And I think one of the psychological hurdles that we run into sometimes is a business owner oftentimes thinks of their business like they do their children, right? We have invested emotion into this, you know, and we are inextricably linked to that company. But business owners have to make a psychological shift from this is my baby to this is an asset. It's a balance sheet item, you know? And when you can get to the point where you can objectively look at your business like a balance sheet item, right? It's something that I own. It's not me. It's not my actualization. It's a balance sheet item, just like my cash and my retirement and my business. Then you recognize you don't want to sit there and feed that one asset probably. You probably want a little bit of diversity in your investment, and that means you need to back away, right? And then once you're really treating that business as an asset, something that you want to feed and grow and increase in value, then what you've done is you've created an entity that you can sell because it's going to be an asset to that new buyer as well, right?
Right.
So you got to move from thinking about it like your baby to thinking about it like your balance sheet.
Yeah.
And the new owner needs to visualize themselves running your company.
That's right.
Right. And
That's
if they can't effectively see themselves doing that because there's not enough information or they don't feel like they have the skills or they're going to work 90 hours a week. Who wants to sign up for that? Right.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to buy a company and work 90 hours a week. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that.
No.
Yeah.
So sort of along the same lines, and I think this is really important. All of us have things that we do in our path to success that are mindset driven. Like for me, it's meditation and exercise. If I don't do those two things, I am not on my A game. I am not. If I am not working out, if I am not sitting or thinking about gratitude, all of those things that are mindset, then I can't be effective. What helps drive your success? What are some of the things that you do?
That's a good question. You know, I'd say as to mindset, for me, it boils down to a couple of things. I know where I fit in this ecosystem, in this world right now. You know, I'm on this planet to serve small business owners. I recognize that, and I'm happy in that role. And so, no matter what, if I can keep my perspective focused on that one thing, then all of the other stuff lives in service to that, right? So if I say to myself, I'm showing up today because my seller's life and livelihood hangs in the balance, their legacy, their ability to put their kids through college, whatever it might be, rests in my hands with a team of my people. Gosh, we will knock down walls. We will move mountains. We'll do whatever it takes to create that outcome. And there's no guarantees. There's never any guarantees, which means in our business, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of focus and dedication. And so I keep my mindset level when there's stress or competing priorities by really focusing on that number one point of priority for me. And I do the same thing with my team. Because I want us to make sure that we align behind that. The great thing about that is that then if something gets off track or you run into a problem and an issue or you commit an error and you've got to go recover for that error, you can, with a straight face and clear conscience, look your seller in the eye, look your buyer in the eye, look your people in the eye and say, we're doing this for the right reason. You know, we're out here busting our butts in service to small business owners. And gosh, that creates a lot of flexibility, right? If there's a better way to serve a small business owner here, if there's a better way to help this business owner achieve this objective, well, let's do it. There's no other sacred cows. The only sacred cow is we're here to serve.
And people can really feel when you're sincere.
Absolutely.
About that, right?
As I'm listening to him, I'm thinking to myself, how lucky are we to have you as a managing director? And I mean that. I mean, because I know you, and I know that you mean everything you just said, and you live by that. You live with integrity, you live being authentic, and people can tell when you're not being that person. So I'm curious, I have a question for you. How do you continue to learn, and foster that mindset in your career? What are some of the things you do daily?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big relationship guy. And so that's a big part of it. I really try to build personal connections with people, and that's a big driver for me. It's not for everybody. That kind of helps keep it on the rails. As to staying smart and staying up on the industry and the state of the practice and that sort of thing, I'm a reader. I'm a big reader. I consume a lot of information, and I think that's critical. I'm constantly coming across an article and firing it off to the team. Hey guys, does this influence how we're thinking about this other topic over here? Or here's this great subject matter that I came across. And then the other part of it is, for me, again, it's kind of the big driver, right? That one thing I'd say, yet again, keeping a focus on why we're here doing what we do is a huge driver, right? It in a certain way, it attracts knowledge, it attracts sharpness, because if I'm going to be the best I can be, I've got to work hard. We've all got to work hard on ourselves and on our own tools and weapons to go out there and go to battle for our clients. It's a motivation driven thing. But again, consume information. Gosh, the internet's amazing, isn't it? Like almost anything you want to know is out there. And the relationship part is a big piece too. Like I really rely on the knowledge and insight and wisdom of the people that I interact with on a daily basis. Honestly, Susan and Marla included on that list. I love it when we're able to connect on a specific opportunity or a client or whatever it might be. And we've had the chance to do this individually and collectively as a group. I get smarter every time I work with you guys, so those are the big things for me.
Erin, I've always said that I try to surround myself with smarter people, and I really think that I do. And I think that's one of the mistakes that I often see business owners make, and professionals, quite frankly, where they feel like they have to be the smartest in the room. I really love the fact that when we get together as executives, I just sit back and think, my gosh, I learned something new every time I'm around you or Jason or Cam. And that's important. I think it's a part of the growth. So one more question for you. Yeah. What was the last book you read?
Oh, the last book I read was Money Boys, actually. So it's not a business book. It was it's a picture of the upcoming of high frequency trading. Very fascinating read. Yeah.
All right, cool. I had to ask a question.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question. You probably get this all the time, but what are some of the areas of a business that a leader needs to focus on in order to make it a titan of business? Is it culture? Is it cash flow? Is it vision? What are the things that you think to make them like the pinnacle out there, the Inc. 500, the Inc. 5000?
Yeah, that's a great question. The old adage, I can't remember who said it. It may have been Charles Schwab. Culture eats strategy for lunch.
I love that quote.
I love it. I love it too, and it's really applicable to big businesses. It's applicable to every business. I will say this: if you don't have strategy, though, culture's maybe not going to get you where you're going to go. You still have got to have both. So culture, number one, absolutely, right? Are we all aligned behind what is most important to us? Mm-hmm. That's number one, no doubt about it. We've got some hard and fast rules in how we hire here about people, and they don't have anything to do with your ability to execute a transaction. We've got some no-go criteria that we will never bring on board because preserving that culture is so important to our success. We also have a pretty clear strategy that we're constantly revolving and iterating and working on, and neither of those things would work without the other, right?
Right.
So I think it's culture number one, strategy number two. Where are you going?
Yeah. So aligned with that, I think this is a great segue to this next question, which is, what do you feel is one of the most important qualities that a leader must have in order to effectively, get the company to that Titan status?
Gotcha. Humility.
Mm-hmm.
Humility. I think humility touches everything.
Agreed.
It's knowing yourself, right? You've got to know what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and you can't do that if you've got big ego blinders on. You also can't do that if you're just down on yourself all the time.
Yeah.
You're constantly beating yourself up. You got to take an objective, rational perspective. I'll tie back to the comment you made about being the smartest person in the room, Marla. Mm-hmm. That's something I was rolling around my brain all the time too, and I've said it a little differently. If I am the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah. Same way. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if as a business owner, if you are the smartest person in the room, you better get out of there quick, because you're never going to grow. You're never going to get better if you do that. So humility, 110%.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
So next question that we have for you is, as an advisor to private business, what's the biggest mistake you see owners make when they're growing their companies?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure if I can give you the biggest, but I can certainly give you some examples. One thing would be, again, not having a strategy in place means that as you grow, you're going to have a bunch of loose ends. You're going to have a bunch of things that are ancillary, don't make sense for the business. So taking kind of an orderly, disciplined process as you grow, like, why are we growing? Where are we growing? Honestly answering and assessing those questions is really, really important. So have a process in place, right? Again, have a strategy in place as you are growing. Be disciplined about it. And I see that take the form of as an example, a business owner who they've been incredibly successful in e-commerce and building a niche in a specific e-commerce brand. And we see this all the time in our business, where because e-commerce is a business that can be highly automated, and there's a lot of technological tools that you can bring in to supplement, human discipline, which is wonderful. We end up with financials from a business that's doing $10 million a year in revenue, and they're still working in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Yes. Or zero.
I'm like, what? How in the world can you run your business that way? It's history, first of all.
Right. And again, thinking about it like an asset, right? If I had a retirement account with JP Morgan and I was getting $2 million a year in in income from that, right? A couple $1 million a year, I'd be paying real close attention. Yeah. And I'll tell you that the reports I would be getting would be A paper, A quality. Again, humility. Be honest with yourself about where you're in that trajectory, right? We're big enough now. We should go ahead and pony up for some real accounting work.
I 100% agree. And you and I have been in this together. We're like, seriously, this is what you're giving us? Like a PDF, of 5 numbers. I'm like, that's last year's financials. Like, how are you making decisions?
Yeah. Well, because I think a lot of business owners look at the task of financials in the wrong way. Yes. They look at it like an exercise. This is something I have to do to reconcile.
Right.
They don't realize your financials are meant to tell you a story. It tells you what is going on with your business and what's happening in the future. So I think that I love the fact that you mentioned that earlier, that, spend your money wisely type of thing, but spend it well. Accounting is one of those areas where I think you should probably invest right away into a professional helping you.
And I taught myself how to understand accounting by interviewing people like you and people like Marla, because I knew that was the key to success in coaching and running my own company. It just puzzles me when people don't see that, or they say this is another one. Oh, I only see my accountant once a year when we do the taxes.
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go there. I'm going to say this, and I hope this doesn't tick off any of our professionals. And Aaron, I think you'll agree with me. Shame on that CPA, right? Because I feel like that CPA needs to be explaining to them that, listen, we need to get together more than once a year, because I can only change certain things if I'm only seeing your financials, after 12 months.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have an opinion around that. I know you work for some large accounting firms.
Yeah.
Well, look, a buyer's just not going to buy a business that doesn't have good financial records, right? As you say, the financial records they tell a story, and it's a story. It's a deep and long story, and if you're good at it, you can get a lot of information out of a good set of financials. At the end of the day, it's about how do you move a dollar from your customer's back pocket to your back pocket. Yes. Fundamentally, what is that flow? How does it happen? And if you don't know the answer to that question, you are not managing your business. You're fundamentally just not doing it. Again, there's a part of me too, and I'll tell you this is just a little sneaky admission maybe. There's a part of me when I see a business owner that comes to us and it's a $10 million business or something like that, and they're on spreadsheets, where they're using their credit card statement to track expenses, that sort of thing. There's a part of me that actually loves it a little bit, because what it tells me is, you know what? All of the professional services people out there like me and, really a good business owner can do it without us. Let's put ourselves in context a little bit. I know that I can help a business owner do some things better. But again, I'm never going to replace that guy.
Absolutely.
And so there's a good lesson for all of us in there, right? Like our job as advisors is to make them the best they could possibly be.
Yes.
Come on, guys, let's add some value here, right?
I agree with you, Aaron, so much. I'm glad you said that. I used to actually make a joke when I was doing the fractional CFO to the owner I was working with, saying, well, you can just sign over the papers to me and I'll run the business. The reason why is they were putting too much dependency on me. My role was to help them understand and look at things differently than the way they were looking at them, and then to give them a different perspective to how they could run their business, not run their business for them. No one should know their business better than the owner. So I'm so glad you said that. All right. So Aaron, we've been talking about small business owners, the struggles they go through, what we've seen. You've given some great advice, given some insight to your success in your career. My next question is, you have so much experience in small business and you've held various roles in small business. And so when you decided and wanted to go into business brokerage, what type of company were you looking for? And I'm curious, what made you choose Raincatcher? Like, what were the key differences compared to other business brokerages that maybe come to mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's two answers to that. The first one is, what was I looking for, or what am I looking for constantly in my career? And I'll relay that by telling you a story. A firm I was at previously, we got a phone call from a client. It came into a very important person at the firm, kind of a high up person at my firm, but it was a client that he had had for decades, right? So they were small. They didn't grow as fast as we did. They were still kind of a small business, but a couple $1 million a year in net income. Family owned, had never taken on any outside capital except for traditional bank debt. And that opportunity bubbled its way to me. And I got a chance to talk to the business owner, got to know the business. There were all type of criteria about this company that made it an attractive investment opportunity. But at the end of the day, I had a size limit. I had to say no to that opportunity, even though it was an eternal referral to an incredibly important person in the firm with all manner of compelling characteristics about the business and the sellers and everything like that. And I had to go in there and deliver bad news and say, sorry, you're a little bit too small for us to take on. And man, that is just pulling my heart out a little bit, because the $50 million deal, that's a great deal. The $100 million deal, that's a great deal, but guess what? Those guys have probably already made some money before that last transaction. This deal that's going to be, you know, 8 million, 10 million bucks, something like that, that's probably the entirety of their retirement. That's probably the entirety of their net worth, almost, if not the substantial majority. And so what I was looking for is a place where we can flexibly and capably serve businesses of any size. Let's go not where we want to go because big deals are, you know, sexier or whatever.
Dollar sign.
Yeah. Let's go where there's a need and go meet that need. And so that's really what I was looking for, right? The ability to execute for small businesses all the way up to those, you know, middle market companies, those $50, $100 million deals. We can help that too. And we've got the skill set and the experience on our team to do that, but we're not saying, no, you're too little. So that was it. And, you know, Raincatcher, honestly, is a platform, delivered that. And it's been an incredible opportunity to be a part of this team. I'd say what really put me over the edge for Raincatcher, and it's been almost a year we've been working together now in almost a startup-y environment in some ways, lots of managing change and managing growth ourselves. At the end of the day, knowing that among my colleagues, we are, again, totally aligned on what matters. We exist to humbly serve small business owners. And I'll tell you what, we're going to do it. We are doing it better, I believe, than any other business broker in the country. And why Raincatcher? One other answer to that as well. And again, I'll say with an anecdote rather than a story. The anecdote is this: in a lot of professional services disciplines, whether it's accounting or business brokerage or investment banking or whatever it might be, when faced with a problem, we throw people at it historically. Right? We just, any problem we're going to solve with more and more and more people, which means the cost that a seller is going to incur for those services will pretty much always stay the same, right? They're going to be constantly inundated with more and more people to solve problems or bigger projects or whatever it might be. Taking a tech enablement and process-oriented approach to solving the issue of M&A for small businesses, that is a compelling business thesis. That is a fun project to work on. So it's not just that I get to work with people that I like and I respect, and I know we're aligned on the important stuff, but I also get to work on a fun problem to solve, which is how can we most effectively serve the small business community in the United States at scale? You know, how can we do this bigger, better, faster, stronger than any other business broker has ever done it? And the way we're doing it is with tech enablement, process orientation, getting smart people on the team to drive processes that they know about. And that's just, frankly, kind of fun.
Yeah, and we're national, awesome. Right? That makes us really different. Yeah. Because most business brokerage firms are regional to a local area, one city at a time. So that makes it really fun too. Yeah. So, well, in wrapping up, thank you so much for being with us. Yeah. One final
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If there's one piece of advice that you can impart on the audience, what would it be?
One piece of advice that I can impart on the audience: hire good advisors. Find good advisors.
Especially in the value building area.
There you go. There you go. Well, I mean, look at all, it really, that's the theme. The theme is, for me at least here, right? The theme is be humble. Know yourself. Know what you're good at. Know what you're not good at. Know what your business is good at, what your business isn't good at, right? Be objective in your view there, right? Humility is the same theme that drives alignment behind the big important stuff, right? If I'm arrogant, then my focus is myself. My focus is not that big thing that we're all going after together. And I will never be able to influence people beyond my ability to attract them to myself, right? If I'm thinking bigger than that, then guess what? We can get a multitude behind this effort. So be humble in everything. And that same concept in response to the tangible advice, hire good advisors, is be humble in your skills, in your discipline, in what you don't know. And guess what? You don't have to go learn it. Just go make a friend, right? Go find somebody who knows it. and hire them.
Speaking our language, Aaron, I'll tell you. All right. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, no, great. Well, so first of all, go to Raincatcher.com. Our whole team is out there. We don't really have walls in the organization. So all my contact info is available right there on the web. I've got a rather open LinkedIn profile. So you could just go to linkedin.com/Aaron Linnebach. That's me. Unfortunately, it's not a real common last name. So I get a lot of unique domains. Or you can email me at aaron.linnebach@raincatcher.com. Reach out directly. Absolutely love any opportunity to speak with small business owners. And so hopefully you'll reach out before a deal is imminent. Hopefully you'll reach out when you first start thinking about it, because there's a lot of ways we can help, I think.
Well, Thank you so much.
Yes.
And thank you for tuning in to the Raincatcher podcast.